Hi, boys and girls. Miss Gildard here. I wanted to talk about our ELA lesson for week 6. So I'm here on the modules page. You'll see it says week 6 up here at the top. And I'm going to scroll down to the ELA section. And this week for ELA, we have one lesson, 10.03 research. So I'm going to click on that. And here is page 1. And I like to always jump to the end just to see what my actual assignment is going to be in this lesson. So if you click on my progress, you can see that there are 12 pages in this week's lesson. I'm going to click on page 12. And it says, what is my assignment? Complete and submit research, writing, clean copy. So that's going to be the assignment for this week. And if I click right here, I can see what the assignment looks like. And this is a clean, finished copy of your informative writing to answer the question, what do immigrants value most about America? So you can either print and write on this paper, or you can even go ahead and just write your clean copy on separate notebook paper. Either one of those would be fine. And I also want to look at the rubric because the rubric is part of what the teachers use when grading assignments. So if I click on the research writing clean copy rubric and I take a look here, this will give me some things to make sure that I include. It shows me that this assignment is worth 20 points. And this is what teachers are using when we grade the research writing clean copy paper. So I'm going to go back to the lesson here. And I'm going to go back to page 1. So usually the ELA lessons begin with foundational skills or word work, just like we did in the classroom. This week it looks like we are learning about ending blends. So I see nk, nd, and nt. So it looks like that's going to be our focus for our foundational skills and our word work. So this just lets you know what you're going to be learning in this lesson. I'm going to go to the next page. So you have some text to read and some short activities to do here to practice these ending blends in D, in K, and in T. So make sure you work through those. Remember, if you cannot read the text or you get stuck, ask an adult or an older sibling at your house to help you out. Or there are often different places throughout the page where you can click a play button and it will read it to you. You can also, remember, use the tools to have the entire page read to you. Okay, remember when you see places like this, you want to click on the little green arrow and scroll through all of the pages until you get to the last green circle and practice reading those words. Here's a little bit more practice. And now we get into our reading portion. Ready to read, research is the seed. So they're going to talk here about those articles having to do with immigration that you read in the week 5 ELA lesson. They're going to give you some examples of what a research question is. What is life like in the United States is the example that they're using. Now remember, just like in the classroom, I would read you example texts before we did some writing on our own, or we would maybe write a practice one together before you wrote on your own. So this is not your research question. This is just the one that they're using for the practice lesson. And you definitely want to click through the pages here, read the information. They talk about what our character Maya here, who's part of our ELA lesson, what she did and the steps that she went through to write a paper answering her research question. And on the next page here, they're going to review both of those articles. Now, just like last week, you can either click through the green arrows here to read the article yourself. You can click through the play buttons to have it read to you. Or you can click and download the two texts, Making the United States My Home and Where I Belong. And those were attached as an announcement in week 5, which you can go back and look at. And we will actually post another announcement with those two texts in a file as well. Or you can go back to modules over here and go back to week 5's ELA lesson. And in the ELA lesson, there will be a place for you to download those texts in case you prefer having printouts of both texts to read all the way through. Okay, and so now we're going to do some practice reading out loud. So accuracy is about reading and reading the words correctly. And they really focus in this week's ELA lesson on reading out loud. So reading out loud means that you should be reading loud enough that somebody else in the same room could hear you. And they took a paragraph from each of those 8 ELA texts. This one's from Making the United States My Home. And this one is from Where I Belong. And the goal for you here is to practice reading these out loud. Now you might get stuck on some tricky words that are above your reading level, but that's okay. You still want to practice because that's how you get better at reading. Now we're going to get into the writing portion. Writing workshop, rooting out the meaning. So when they talk about the meaning, they're talking about some specific words that you guys read in those 2 ELA texts, the parts of the words, what the prefixes or the suffixes or the root words mean. So go through and do the little practice activities for this page. And then now we're going to focus on writing our informative article to answer our own research question. Now, this lesson assumes that in week 5, you finished your research notes graphic organizer for each of those 2 ELA articles, Making America My Home and Where I Belong, and that you also at least started your sloppy copy. If you did not do both of those things during week 5, you're going to need to go back and do those first before you can write a clean copy. So the clean copy is your finished copy that should have very little spelling errors. It should have all the capitalization and punctuation correct. It should have paragraphs in the right places, and it should include all the parts of the article that the rubric and the checklist, which I'll show you in a minute, have listed. So if you have not done those things yet in your sloppy copy, you're going to want to go back and fix the sloppy copy first, and then copy that over onto a separate sheet of paper for your clean copy. And that's what you're going to submit this week. So this lesson starts with adding the second body paragraph and then finishing the concluding paragraph. So again, if you didn't start that last week, please go back and do that first. So the lessons here talk about the paragraph for the second factor detail that you're including, and then focuses on the graphic organizer. So here are some tips for how to write your second body paragraph here. You want to make sure you read through those, or you have an adult or an older sibling read them to you, or you use the text reading tool that's on this page to have it read to you. And this just continues to give you some important tips and information. Now that concluding paragraph was something we struggled a lot with in our class, in the classroom with writing. Writing a closing or concluding statement was something that a lot of you guys tended to forget. So I want to make sure that you don't forget to add those to this piece of writing because you'll lose some points. Remember that last closing paragraph and your conclusion statement wraps it all up for the reader. It reminds the reader what your writing was all about, and it lets the reader know that you're done without having to say something like the end or this is what I wrote about. You don't want to include anything like that. So make sure you go through both of these two tabs here. These both have important information for that last paragraph. Okay, and then this page is about editing and revising your sloppy copy. Okay, when you write your sloppy copy, you want to edit and revise it before you then copy it over onto your final copy. And the final copy, or the clean copy, is what you're submitting for your grade this week. So you want to make sure that you catch any mistakes or fix your writing as best you can before you submit it this week. So, revising is when you make your writing sound better for the reader. This is like finding words that you repeat over and over again and picking different words to use in place of some of those. Or if you find a word that's kind of boring, choosing a better word to replace it with. Editing is about fixing the spelling and conventions. So look for words that you don't know how to spell and ask someone to help you spell them, or look them up in a dictionary if you have one, or if you know how to access an online dictionary. You want to fix capitalization. Make sure that your sentences all begin with capital letters. If you have names of people or places in your writing, that they're capitalized. And you want to make sure that you have all of your punctuation. And then publishing is your clean copy. So here we have your clean copy, and this is what I showed you before. They just put the file here again for you. And then this is the checklist I was talking about a few pages back, the Good Writers Checklist. If you click on that, this includes all the things you should have in your clean copy. Did you give your writing a title? Did you use paragraphs? And did you indent each of those paragraphs? Remember to put 2 fingers on the paper and then write the first word in your paragraph after those 2 fingers. Did you have an introduction, 2 other paragraphs, and a conclusion? So an introduction is the paragraph by itself, 2 body paragraphs. Each body paragraph is going to be focusing on different facts and details about the articles that you read. And then the final paragraph is your conclusion. So that is 4 paragraphs altogether. Okay, and then here's some other important information that you want to make sure that you include in your writing as well. If you want to, you can pause the screen here when you're working on your writing, or you can go back to the lesson and you can click on the Good Writers Checklist and bring it up on your own computer screen or print it out, and even check off these little boxes here after you check your writing for each of these things. Remember, if you're missing one of these things, go back and add it or fix it in your writing so you can get the best grade possible. And then this is our summary page. It's just going to remind you of everything that you learned. And then there's a little self-check review down here at the bottom to review those ending blends that you practiced in the word work part of this lesson. And then we're back to the page we started at, the last page of the lesson, page 12. What is my assignment? Remember, oftentimes the ELA lessons include a few different activities or printable pages, but only the one on the What is my assignment page is the thing that actually needs to be submitted that week for the grade. So as we know, this week is our research writing clean copy. And that's what you're going to be looking for, or that's what I'm going to be looking for in your submission for ELA week 6. If you have any questions while you're working on your research writing, make sure you have mom and dad send me a message on Dojo, post it on the discussion board for week 6 here on My Learning, or send me a message through the inbox in My Learning, and I would love to help you out. Good luck and happy writing.